A fan gave Michael Jordan a drawing at age 12. He kept it hidden for 30 years, until now. The gym smelled like rubber soles and stale popcorn. Banners hung from the walls, most of them faded from age, with crooked pictures of student athletes who had long since graduated. It was a Tuesday, but this was no ordinary day at Lakeview Middle School in the Chicago suburbs. Rumors had been circling for days. Teachers tried to keep things quiet, but kids talk. Someone famous was visiting, someone big. By lunchtime, the halls buzzed with theories, a Bulls player, maybe even Pippen. Danny Cole didn't want to get his hopes up. He knew better than most that life rarely delivered what it promised. At 12, Danny had already been bounced through 4 foster homes. He didn't talk much at school, not because he didn't have things to say, but because he was always the new kid. And in Chicago, being invisible was safer than standing out. But basketball was different. It was the only thing that ever made him feel like he mattered. He had spent 2 nights working on the drawing, MJ midair, soaring toward the basket, tongue out, eyes locked in. He didn't have expensive markers or a fancy sketchbook. Just an old pencil, a few crayons, and the back of a cereal box flattened out. He didn't think it was amazing, but it felt right. It felt like him. He had folded it twice, tucked it in his back pocket, and waited. At 2:10 p.m., the double doors to the gym swung open, and just like that, the room erupted. Some kids screamed. Others froze. A few teachers looked like they'd seen a ghost. But it wasn't a ghost. It was Michael Jordan, number 23, walking toward the center of the court in black sweats and a quiet smile. The principal fumbled through a speech, thanking sponsors, mentioning community outreach, but no one listened. All eyes were on MJ. He didn't say much. Just looked around the bleachers, waved, and said, "Let's talk about dreams." Danny barely heard what came next. His heart thumped so hard he thought it would leap out of his chest. A few lucky kids got to ask questions. Someone asked about the '91 finals. Another asked how many shoes he owned. Then, the principal announced there'd be 10 minutes for meet and greets, pictures, and maybe autographs. Kids flooded the court like it was the United Center. Danny hung back for a second, clutching the drawing. When the crowd thinned, he stepped forward. He didn't say anything. Just handed over the folded drawing. Michael took it, eyebrows rising slightly as he unfolded it. "This yours?" he asked. Danny nodded. Michael looked at it, paused, and flipped it over. There was writing on the back. A sentence, in blocky handwriting. "When I'm 25, I'll play like you. Watch me. Danny C." MJ looked at the boy for a moment. Not like a celebrity looks at a fan, but like he was actually seeing him. "You play?" Michael asked. Danny nodded again. "I used to." "You'll play again," MJ said. No cameras caught it. No reporters wrote it down. Just one line, spoken quietly in the middle of a worn-out gym, between 2 people who understood something words didn't need to explain. Danny didn't get a picture. He didn't need one. The moment was locked in his memory like a snapshot anyway. That night, he went home to his current foster placement, a cramped apartment with peeling walls and a foster father who never looked up from the TV. Danny didn't mention the visit. He knew better. He sat at the kitchen table with his lukewarm dinner and stared at his empty backpack. By the weekend, he was gone. His caseworker showed up Friday morning, telling him there'd been a reassignment. No warning. Just packed bags and a long car ride across the city to another home, this one stricter, colder, more crowded. Basketball became a background noise. There was no time, no court nearby, and no one to encourage it. Years passed. He grew tall, lean, with good hands and natural movement. But he stopped showing up to tryouts. He figured no one wanted the unstable kid with no real family and no real future. He failed sophomore year, then dropped out entirely the following fall. He worked odd jobs, moved around, lost touch with people, and eventually found a routine as a janitor at a community rec center in South Side. Quiet work. Night shifts. Just him and the mop. He never forgot that day in the gym, but it started to feel more like a dream. A strange, bright afternoon from someone else's life. What he didn't know, what no one could have guessed, was that MJ hadn't thrown the drawing away. He hadn't signed it and passed it to a manager. He hadn't dropped it in a hotel room or left it in the trunk of a limo. Michael had taken it home, folded it neatly, and placed it in the back of his personal trophy case, behind the plaques and championship rings, next to a faded ticket from his first high school game and a photo of his father. MJ had received thousands of gifts from fans over the years. Jerseys, artwork, notes. Most got tossed, donated, or stored in boxes. But not that one. He didn't know why he kept it, exactly. Maybe it was the drawing itself, raw, honest, scrappy. Maybe it was the kid's eyes, wide and determined, even if everything else looked broken. Or maybe it was the line on the back, "When I'm 25, I'll play like you." Something about it never left him. He didn't talk about it in interviews. Never showed it on camera. It was just one of those things, something personal. A reminder, maybe, that greatness wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was quiet. Sometimes it got lost in the system and faded into the crowd. But even in the silence, it still mattered. And 30 years later, it would matter more than ever. The documentary shoot wasn't anything new for Michael Jordan. He'd sat through dozens of them. Cameras. Lights. Soft-spoken producers asking him to reflect. It all blurred together now. This one was different, though. ESPN had promised it would focus on legacy beyond basketball. The stories behind the stories. Michael liked that. He had more to say than just highlights and rings. They were filming at his home, inside the private trophy room. A quiet place. No shoes allowed. Hardwood floors. Walls lined with glass cases holding awards, sneakers, medals. Framed jerseys. A photo of his father. A folded American flag. A ball signed by the Dream Team. All the big moments. But the small drawer tucked beneath one of the display cases had never been opened on camera. The producer, a woman named Carla, asked offhandedly during a break, "Was there ever something you kept that no one knew about? Something personal?" Michael stared at the drawer. "You filming right now?" he asked. "No," she said, unsure where this was going. "Turn it on," he replied. The cameras rolled. The room went quiet. Michael walked over, bent down, and pulled the drawer open. Inside was a neatly folded, aged piece of cardboard. He unfolded it slowly, revealing a child's drawing, himself in midair, arm outstretched, tongue out, soaring to the hoop. The crew leaned in. Carla narrowed her eyes. "What's that?" Michael flipped the cardboard over. "Look at this," he said, his voice lower. Back of the drawing. The camera zoomed in. In blocky handwriting, it read, "When I'm 25, I'll play like you. Watch me. Danny C." Michael held the cardboard in both hands, looked into the lens, and said, "This kid handed this to me in a school gym in '91. I didn't say much at the time. Just looked at him and said, 'You'll play again.' I never saw him after that." The crew was silent. Carla whispered, "Do you know what happened to him?" Michael shook his head. "Never found out. Always wondered." It wasn't scripted, and it wasn't planned. But it became the heart of the documentary. A single moment, a kid with a dream, a hero who remembered, and 3 decades of silence in between. The ESPN team left that night with new instructions. Find Danny Cole. Research began immediately. They checked old school rosters, foster care records, court documents. At first, the trail was cold. Danny had changed placements multiple times, left high school with no diploma, no known address. But a birth date and a social security check-in led to a match. Daniel Cole. Age 43. working as a janitor at a rec center near Englewood. Carla called Michael personally. "We found him." Michael paused. "Where is he now?" "Still in Chicago. Cleaning floors." "Same neighborhood you played in?" Silence. Then Michael said, "I want to talk to him." "Not for the cameras. Just me." Danny Cole didn't recognize the voice on the phone at first. "This is Mike," the man said. "Michael Jordan." Danny almost laughed. He thought it was a prank. "Right. No joke. I've still got your drawing." The words landed like a punch. Danny sat down on the rec center bench, his mop leaning against the wall. What? I'm serious. You gave it to me when you were 12. I read what you wrote. I never forgot." Danny blinked hard. His throat tightened. "Why now?" "I don't know," Michael said. "Maybe because the world should know what real heart looks like. And maybe because I needed to see it again." They agreed to meet the next day. No press. No crowd. Just a gym. Just them. Danny couldn't sleep that night. He dug through what little he had in his apartment: old shoes, a clean t-shirt, something that didn't smell like bleach. He hadn't been on a basketball court in years. His knees weren't the same. His back hurt. But none of that mattered. The next morning, Michael walked into the gym quietly. No entourage. Just him, a duffel bag, and the drawing tucked under his arm. Danny was already there, sweeping the far corner. He looked up. They locked eyes. No words for a second. Just a nod. "I told you," Michael said. "You'd play again." Danny gave a tired smile. "I stopped believing that a long time ago." Michael unzipped the bag, pulled out 2 pairs of sneakers. Tossed 1 pair to Danny. "Let's see if you still got that jumper." They played for a bit. Nothing serious. Just shots, passes, laughs. It wasn't about who could win. It wasn't even about basketball anymore. It was about something left unfinished being quietly completed. Michael asked him about his life, where he'd gone, how things had turned out. Danny told him the truth. The broken homes. The dropouts. The jobs. The silence. "No one ever told me I was worth sticking around for," Danny said. "Except that one day. You didn't even know me, but you looked at me like I wasn't invisible." Michael nodded. "That day, you reminded me who I was playing for. Not the banners. Not the money. The kids who didn't have a shot unless someone noticed." Danny's eyes welled up, but he held it in. Then Michael handed him the drawing. "You keep it now. You earned it." Danny stared at it like it was gold. "I don't have words," he said. "You don't need any," Michael replied. "But maybe you've still got something to give." Danny raised a brow. "Like what?" "There's this idea I've been working on," Michael said. "A program. For guys like us. Guys who never got their shot, but still got heart. I want you to help build it." Danny didn't speak right away. He just nodded, jaw clenched. He didn't know where this road would go. But for the first time in decades, it felt like he had a direction. Michael slapped him on the back. "You said to watch you when you're 25. I waited longer. But I'm watching now." And with that, the past cracked open. And the future quietly stepped in. 6 months later, the old rec center didn't look the same. The floor was redone, the walls painted fresh white and deep red. The backboards were new. A small digital scoreboard now hung over the court, donated by the Jordan Foundation. But more than that, the energy had changed. Laughter echoed, sneakers squeaked constantly, and kids ran drills led by someone who once believed his shot at life had ended decades ago. Danny Cole was no longer the night janitor. He was now program director of the Second Shot Initiative, a project backed by Michael Jordan's private foundation to support men over 30 who had fallen through the cracks, former high school dropouts, ex-foster kids, or guys who never had anyone in their corner. And alongside the youth camp side of it, the program paired them with kids in need of mentorship, forming teams that shared more than basketball. They shared survival stories. Danny's job wasn't glamorous. He organized schedules, taught fundamentals, cleaned up after practice, and made sure everyone got home safe. But to him, it was everything. The first tournament was scheduled for a rainy Saturday in October. A mix of local teams, youth squads, and volunteer mentors filled the gym. By 9 a.m. buses pulled up. Parents came. Teachers showed up. Even former players dropped in to support. But one person hadn't shown up yet. Michael had said he might be in Charlotte that weekend. Some business thing. Danny had told him not to worry. Still, a part of him hoped. As Danny stood courtside watching a game between two middle school teams, both coached by adults who had once been one paycheck from the street, he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Looks like you finally got that jumper back." Danny turned and there he was, MJ, baseball cap pulled low, standing with his hands in his pockets like he belonged there. "You made it," Danny said. "Wouldn't miss it." They shook hands, but it felt like more than that. It felt like full circle. Michael took a seat at the bleachers while Danny returned to work, running between games, checking brackets, giving high fives to kids who made their first free throw. The crowd didn't hound MJ. A few noticed, but no one made a scene. It wasn't about celebrity today. It was about community. Near the end of the day, they gathered the players, parents, and volunteers at center court. Danny was supposed to give a short speech, just thank yous, wrap up, maybe a few words about what was next. He stepped forward, cleared his throat, and tapped the mic. "I'm not good with speeches," he started. "But I've got something to say today that I've waited 30 years to believe." The gym quieted. "I used to think once you missed your shot, that was it. No do-overs. Life moved on and left you behind. I let go of a lot of dreams. A lot of hope. But one thing stuck with me, something I gave away and never expected to see again." He held up a framed piece of cardboard. The drawing. Gasps and whispers ran through the crowd. "This was something I gave to a man when I was 12. He could have tossed it. He could have laughed at it. But he didn't. He kept it. For 30 years. He looked over at Michael. "And that told me something. That maybe our smallest moments matter more than we ever know." He paused, looking around the gym. "I see future players in this room. I see future coaches. But more than that, I see people who refuse to stay down when life knocks them over. That's what this is about. Not just basketball. Belief. Second chances." The crowd clapped, some wiping tears. Michael stepped up beside him. "You said you'd play like me when you turned 25, he said into the mic. "I think you did something better. You became someone others can count on. That's legacy." The applause grew louder, but neither man cared about the noise. They stood quietly for a moment, letting it all settle in. Later, as the tournament wrapped and families drifted out, Danny found himself standing by the bleachers, exhausted but fulfilled. A young boy approached him, skinny, shy, holding a crumpled piece of paper. "It's for you," the boy said. Danny took it, unfolded it, and saw a drawing, himself in a whistle and gym clothes, holding a basketball. The boy had written something on the back. "One day I'll coach like you." Danny smiled and crouched down. "Hold on to that," he said. "You might be the one handing it back someday." The boy nodded, then ran off. Michael watched from a distance, a satisfied look in his eyes. He didn't need to say anything. He had done what he came to do. As the lights dimmed in the gym and the doors closed behind the last family, Danny stood alone for a minute. The framed drawing was now mounted permanently above the gym entrance. A small plaque underneath read, Believe before you're seen, in honor of Danny Cole. He exhaled, let the silence fill the space, and whispered to himself. I made it. It wasn't about money. Not fame. Not stats or trophies. It was about being remembered. And now, he would be. For good.